Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. So today we have what I think is the best tank destroyer in the game. So we've had a look at super heavies, we've had a look at mediums, and we have had a look at heavies. So we are on to tank destroyers. Now, this was actually a tough pick. You know, I actually started playing a tank where I thought it was the best, and then I thought, you know what, I don't think so. I don't think so anymore. Back maybe a year or two ago, I would have probably gone for it, but then I thought, you know what, I'm going with this certain tank. Now, the tank you're looking at now is the most popular tank destroyer, but it is probably the worst, and that is the Death Star. The other tank that I did go for, but I changed my mind, was the T110E3, because I think it's a fantastic tank destroyer. I really do. But then I thought, is it now the strongest? People can deal with it quite easily now. And then I thought, do you know what? I have to go for it. And people may not agree, you know, people might disagree, but I have gone with the Mino. So I think it's a super strong tank. Now, the armor profile is decent, but there are a lot of weak points on the turret and of course the hull. But you know what, I had to go for this tank because you know what, I just think it is a superb tank, and there's not too much wrong with this tank. So we're going to have a look at the stats, and then of course, as usual, we are going to get into the game. Now, if I was to change anything about the tank, there would literally just be one thing, because it is an auto reloader with the reserve shell. That is the only thing I would change, is that reserve shell. I hate the reserve shell. I just want to shoot it. I really do. I just want to constantly shoot the freaking shot, but you can't. Well, you can, but you don't really want to. So your turret is 240 millimeters, so very strong. Or you know, it is strong, but there are weak points. The same as the hull, 270. So quite strong, but they do have weak points. Now, of course, your DPM is not going to be as high as you would like because of that reserve shell, 2,518, which is still not bad considering it's got a reserve shell. Your reload between each shot is 3.53, and of course, it is a 3-shot auto reloader. So you shoot that first shell, you're looking at it backwards. So you shoot the first shell, you've got 8.15 seconds reload plus your 3.53. So, you know, 11 and a half seconds, just over, well, 11 3/4 seconds reload, which, you know, even if you use it as a single shotgun, I don't think that is bad at all. But if you wanted to shoot that second shell, you've then, of course, you have that 3.53 seconds and then 9 seconds, 9-second reload. So not bad. But of course, if you want to use that final shell, you then have the 3.53 plus 21.73. So you really do not want to be using that third shell if you don't have to. Your penetration is 289 on your APCR, so, you know, decent, standard, and your heat is 384. I say standard, it is running calibrated shells. Your HE pen is 70. So your damage, you got a 490 alpha gun, 410 on your heat, and 630 on your HE. So of course, if you can get that HE out, I would strongly recommend doing so. Your aim time is 4.1 and your gun dispersion is 0.398, and you do have a very nice 10 degrees of gun depression with a top speed of 45 kilometers per hour. So, you know, stat wise, I think, you know, it's pretty solid for the stats. I do honestly think it is pretty solid. So we're going to get into a game, and to be fair, I thought it was a pretty solid game, and it just goes to show, like, how strong this tank can actually be. Now, I would recommend not playing it as an actual tank destroyer, and that's the thing nowadays with tank destroyers. There's not actually many, apart from things like the Grill, the Death Star, the Waffen F110 or whatever it is. There's not that many actual tank destroyers that should be played as tank destroyers. There's so many that you kind of play it like a heavy. You know, they're not really tank destroyers nowadays. The E3, the E4, they're not tank destroyers. They are heavy tanks, and it is pretty much the same as this tank. Don't play it at the back of the map in a bush. Just go in. You've got the armor profile to deal with the enemy tank, so just go straight in with your heavy tanks and support them. So 491 AL damage on my first shot, and then, you know, I'm looking around, seeing where everyone is, and then I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a move a little bit, because they've caught base C, the heavy's here, there's a tank destroyer around as well, and that was a silly shot. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to make my move, and that's my first blocked damage there. And this is where I play, you know, yes, it's a tank destroyer, but I'm trying to go as front line as I possibly can. So there's my second block damage, second block shot. So 700 block damage at the moment and 900 damage. Now, I do have to be careful because there is a Death Star just around this corner that I'm going to find now. So he has literally just taken most of my, pretty much half of my damage. So not my fault. I didn't realize he was going to be there. He didn't get spotted, but luckily I've actually bounced everything else. So I'm up to 1,000 block damage and 1,900 damage. So you can see here, I'm going to reload the second shell. Always try to reload. Don't rush in with just one shell. Because again, if you have to use that shell, if there's a tank that is a one shot and you do have to use it to clear, you've then got over 20 seconds of doing nothing. So again, if you're going to rush in like I'm doing here, always make sure you've got at least the second shell reloaded. But even at this point, you know, again, got another bounce. That is 1,400 block damage, and let's just get the shot into the Foch there. So 3.4k damage. I've only got one shell left, so you know what, I'm leaving these guys. I'm finding a full hit point tank. There's 5 other guys around. I will let them deal with the tank behind. And even now, I mean, 1,460 blocked damage. Now I do mess up in a minute because, you know, I've got 3 shells reloaded, perfect for a full hit point T95 E6. However, I do kind of rush my shot and I messed the first shot up just around the corner. Take the shot and only track him. Should have took a bit more time there, just like I'm doing here. So 504 roll, final shot, and even at this point, you know, I'm not bothered about reloading that third shell because everyone is now rushing around and it is going to be game over very, very soon. So, you know, didn't really do too much, didn't get penetrated apart from the Death Star and that E6 at the end. I pretty much blocked everything. So not only did I get 1,460 block damage, I also ended up on 4,442 damage, and then on top of that 1,478 assistant damage. So, you know, and that is a tank destroyer getting that much assistant damage, and that just goes to show how amazing this tank can actually be if you play it right. And 1,559 base XP, and in my opinion, a well-deserved mastery badge. So that is how strong this tank can be, and that is why I've gone with this tank being the best tank destroyer in tier 10. Let me know your opinion. What do you think is the best tank destroyer in tier 10 at the moment? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, hope you enjoyed today's video. I will be back in the next couple of days with, of course, the best light tank in the game. So I hope you enjoyed the weekend. I'm Meadsy, and I will see you all soon. Bye-bye.